Hello, welcome. It's Pauline again, and we're here for PQW Exquisite Quilt, episode number 12. Wow, we're getting through it. I hope you're enjoying it. And I have to say, the photos I'm getting from people on the quilting that they've done, let me tell you how very, very proud I am of you, all that are doing the quilting, because I can see you're putting a lot of effort into it. You're putting a lot of effort into the drawing of the designs, and then the quilting is amazing. So hats off to you all. So for those that have not yet tried my format of quilting, my control quilting technique, please look at the previous episodes on that so that we can teach you how to be a beautiful quilter without the stress of free motioning. So this time we're on to more sashings, because the whole quilt is put together with a different sashing between all the blocks. It's a sampler so that I can teach you all the different sashings that you can use in any quilt that you want to put together, quilt as you go. Just so that it gives it a bit of flair, so you're not just having that basic strip between the blocks. Let's dress it up. I hope everybody has downloaded the layout chart, which we put up in the beginning to show you where each block's going to be going. And very soon we'll be joining these blocks into units, and then we'll be joining the units into sections to construct the whole quilt. Then we'll have the borders to do. But at the moment, I'm showing you all the different sashings. Now, in your notes that we want you to download, just a little brief example here, download all the notes. Click the link below so that you're getting all the notes, because in the notes are the measurements. Now, the measurements are very important because we've got to get this quilt to come together accurately. So we need to teach you how to calculate your measurements, because it's different to putting a normal sashing in a quilt. You'll have the graphics with all the measurements and everything on there. So please download all of this so you know exactly where you're headed. But in this episode, we're just going to do some more strip piecing and joining together, making it very simple. So we're going to start out making like just adding squares to give a look of a different style of sashing. So we're going to start with two different coloured fabrics. Like I'm using a blue and my background fabric, white. We're just going to cut those, referring to your notes in your measurements in your downloadable notes. We're going to sew these two together with our accurate 1/4 inch seam. We're at the sewing machine. I'm just going to give you a few hints and tips on piecing these little intricate pieces for your sashing together accurately. So I do have the sew slip mat on the bed of my machine, the one that I recommended for quilting. It stays on my machine from start to finish of a quilt. It just only ever comes off to clean the mat if it attracts too much fluff underneath. And you know, some people, if you've got a front loading bobbin, you may want to take the tray off. You may need to take the mat off. If you've got a drop-in bobbin, remember you just pull the mat back and pull it back so you can expose the little lid to take your bobbin out. Then just let it plop back down and pat it back into place. Now, choice of foot. I use two different feet when I'm piecing things together. A lot of times I use the open toe foot, this one here. Oops, we'll set it up so you can see it. This one that I use for the quilting that has nothing in the front, it's just opened. And if I'm going to use that and I'm piecing these pieces together, I need a 1/4 inch seam. So if I use this foot, I'm going to need to move the needle position over so that I get the 1/4 inch alignment. And once I put this on, I'll show you how I do that. Or you have the choice of using your 1/4 inch foot. Now, my 1/4 inch foot that I like to use for my Bernina is the one that's got the little guide down the side, because that keeps me up snug against the edge of the fabric. So this has got this little edge down the side of it. So from the center needle position to the side of that foot, I need that to be the 1/4 inch. Now remember, your measurements are coming from your rulers. This is what you've used to cut with. So this is the 1/4 inch that you need to come back to, not what your foot gives you, what you've used to cut with. So I'm going to put the 1/4 inch foot on. And I'm going to then check that my measurement is right. Now my machine is the Bernina 570 QE. I choose to use that machine, but you've all got your own machines. It's just when I was looking for a new machine, this was the one I picked. It is a brilliant machine because it has all the features that I need for what I do. But remember, if you can't find what I'm telling you on your machine, the adjustments you need to make, go to your local dealer and ask them, or open your manual and have a look. So now I'm going to put this ruler, because this is the ruler I've cut all my pieces out from, most of them, and I'm going to put the ruler on the bed of the machine. I'm going to put my pressure foot down. Now I'm going to make sure that edge of that little guide is right up against the edge of the ruler. If you don't have the guide on your 1/4 inch foot, put the edge of the foot right on the ruler. Now I'm going to then just hand wind my needle down to see where the needle sits with the 1/4 inch on my foot, and it is exactly the same. So I don't have to move the needle position. So that's using the 1/4 inch foot. Now, if I was going to use the open toe foot, which I do a lot because sometimes there's too many little seams, and this ledge that's down the side of this foot can get caught up on all of those seams. So sometimes I'll use the open toe foot. So we'll pop that one on. And like we all have our personal choices about what we like to use. Sorry, just got to get this aligned up. Oops, can't even see now. Right, so now my needle is in the center position, and that's way too far away from the edge of the foot for me to sew an accurate 1/4 inch seam. So once again, I'm going to put the ruler underneath the foot. I'm going to put my pressure foot down. Then I'm going to use like my 6-fingered stiletto, this brilliant tool, and I'm going to run it up the side. I'll just try and get my hand out of the road. Up the side so that I know that those two edges are exactly level. So now I can feel they're all as one, they're level exactly. Then I'm going to move the needle position over till I get it exactly into the position that I want. Put my needle down, and it's now lined up exactly on the 1/4 inch. So on my machine, I know I move my needle position 4 paces to the right. So now I've got a perfect 1/4 inch seam. So you make your choice of which foot you like to use. We've all got our favourite, but I interswap between those two. Now once we've seamed up the strips, we simply then just will go to our ironing surface. So if this was your ironing surface, this is mine. With your hot iron, set the seam, because you really need to set that seam because you don't want the threads to stretch. Then we're going to put the light colour down onto our ironing surface, open out, finger press just a little bit, and then just sit the iron on there. Finger press, sit the iron. Finger press, set the iron. Try not to stretch because we want these to come out even. So once you've done that, you'll need to make a few sets of this, and it'll tell you in those instructions. Once we do this, I love to use this little 8.5 by 2.5 inch ruler for cutting my small pieces. I'm going to line one of my lines on this ruler up on that stitching line, not on the outside edges, because you know your fabric can stretch a little bit, all sorts of things can happen. We're going to line that up, and I'm going to trim the edge, and I'm going to use the little cutter because I don't want any stretching as I go across. Okay, put this up, rotate your mat. Now we want to cut strips 1.5 inches wide, the same width as what we've cut our fabric, and we're just going to cut up as many as it tells you in the instruction. Now by pressing that seam properly and using a small blade, you should be able to keep all of these edges perfectly even. I find if I didn't press properly, and if I was using a bigger rotary cutter, as I cut across, the rotation of the blade can stretch the fabric as it moves forward, which means we can be running off skew, and as we get up here, we'd need to come back and get a new straight edge. But I find the little blade keeps this cut edge absolutely perfect, and I don't have to do a lot of extra trimming. So I could go right along here now and cut all of this up, and I'm assured that my edge will stay perfectly straight. So that's just a little tip. Now, once we've got those cut, we're then going to top and tail them. Simple, very simple. And we're going to make, oh sorry, I've got that the wrong way. We're going to top and tail them this way. So we're going to make a full, complete row, like so. Very simple. Nothing hard about this at all. Now, once we've got this done and all joined, and it'll tell you how many to join together, go to your iron and simply set the stitching line again, every one. Just take your time to do this because it's going to help you with your accuracy and keep all your stitching lines straight. Once you press all of those seams, we're going to now press our seams out to the darkest fabric. So as we iron this, I just use my fingers underneath and I just finger press, oops, wrong way, finger press so it's going to the dark, going to the dark, going to the dark, all the way through. And just gently press that, and then we get a perfect even finish. And that's all you have to do to join all your strips together. This makes a really attractive sashing. Now, of course, we want this to be 2 inches. So this is only measuring 1.5. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut strips of our white fabric, or whatever is your background fabric that you've used for your quilting. These we're going to cut a bit wider, and those measurements are in your instructions. You're simply going to join this to either side. Now this is where we need to use the 1/4 inch seam again, and we're going to be sewing down here. So I would start at this end. You may want to pin those intersections, but I find if I have the seam sides facing up, I can keep an eye on what's happening here as I sew down, because I don't want to have this strip on top and sew down, because I'm sewing blindly and I could be all the time flipping these seams over. So I like to just keep an eye on those seams. A little tailor's awl is a really good hint to use for something like this, or the 6-finger stiletto, which I'll introduce you to in a moment. But that just keeps all of those nicely. Once you've done that, press the stitching line, fold it out, and then we're going to put another strip on the other side. So now that is going to give us our 4-inch width to put through the 2-inch sasher tool. So that'll make a 2-inch sashing, but you'll have this beautiful piece here. This will end up to be a short, narrow piece, and it makes a really attractive sashing for you to add to your quilt. And you'll see one finished later down the track as we start to construct the quilt. I think you'll be very impressed with this style of sashing. So that's just a little square sashing. If you have got a lot of bits and pieces left over, these could all be different colours. They don't have to be all the same colour. I just love this print, and it's going to look good in the quilt, so I've used all the same colour. But you could just cut 1.5 inch pieces, join them together. You could do all different rainbow colours there, and it would look absolutely fabulous. So now, to go a little bit more challenging for you, this one is a little bit more challenging. This is a lovely sashing with little checkerboards. Oops, that needs a really good press. Hot off the press. But this is a really nice challenge, and this is a good way of using up all your scraps, because as we work through all these different sashing, you may want to leave this one till last. It's really quite fun to do, and it's all about accuracy. you know, in the little hints and tips that I can give you, it'll give you the little advice that you might have missed somewhere along the line of getting everything accurate. So we're going to start out by cutting our strips 1 inch wide, or 3/4 of an inch, I think this one is. Yes, let me measure it. No, 1 inch wide. So white and your mixture of colours, seam them with your 1/4 inch seam. Press the way I showed you before. Set your seams first, press your seam out to the dark. I love using this little ruler to be cutting my strips 1 inch wide. So I'm lining up the edge. I've got the edge already trimmed. My line this way is going straight through that seam line. Little rotary cutter, cut. And we just keep cutting up. Oops, I need to press a bit harder. Keep cutting up as you go. And then you'll be just turning these back and forth to give your little, once we seam them, they'll be your little squares. You can do it like that by joining them like this, but I like to do it as 2 single strips, as we did before. Lay them all down into this method. Seam them together as we have here. Press your seams. I've pressed the seams all one way this time. Press them all one way. So I'm going to just show you my little construction piece here. Just joined all different colours together. I've pressed the seams all one way. I'm now going to put my little ruler on here and straighten the edge, because a lot of times you might have raggedy edges like this. You know, and if you feel this sashing's too fiddly for you, you don't have to do it. You could do one of the other sashings, whatever you like. We're just going to cut across. There's my little pieces. Drag them away. And you notice I didn't take my hand off the ruler, I just dragged those little pieces away. Now I'm going to rotate the mat. My ruler's still in the same position and I will cut my inch strips. Just take your time. And there's your first cut. So now we've got 2 lots here now. We don't want blue and blue lined up. We don't want white and white. So we're going to drop it down one. Okay, so that we've got different offset colours. Now, as we piece this together, we want to nest all of these seams. So let me nest these seams. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm nesting the blue into the white, which is connecting to this top blue. Now you may be able to just feel that as you sew down, but if you are challenged with matching those bits, use the double fork pin. Now I want to put this on a piece of dark fabric so you can see this. This is a twin pin. If you don't know about these, they're called the fork pins. They are brilliant. They're the best pins out there. I find if I pin with one pin, if I put that pin up that centre seam, it's going to just slightly move the seams away from each other and not let it fit in there. So this pin goes either side of the stitching line. Push it through. So you could go down and maybe not put one of those at every intersection, but put them every now and again, because if your seaming is accurate and you press right and you cut like I just showed you, your points should come out perfect. They should match, those seams should match perfect. And then we just press the seam one way. Now I'm going to do this checkerboard sashing where we've got all of these seams to come together, because we've got lots of little seams here. We're going to start. Now you could, if you like, it's entirely up to you. You might like to use the fork pin, and you might like to put, just try and get this here so you can see, the pin so it goes either side of the stitching line and push it through. And you might like to go down and pin all of those. I prefer with this one not to pin. Make sure in the previous part of this lesson, you'll see how I've pressed all the seams. So I have my stitch length on 2 because I don't want a gaping big stitch, I just want a nice little one. So now when I come down here, I'm using this 6-fingered stiletto. It's a brilliant tool. We've got a flat edge, then we've got a really pointy edge. So I like to use this to open up my pieces, make sure my seams are butted together, and I hold that there as I sew over that seam. I come down a bit further, I get the next one aligned up, and it does take a little bit of time to get this happening. Hold it there exactly where you need it to be, and just keep coming down. And if you have to push back a little bit to fit them in, push back, hold it with the stiletto. It's like does what fingers and pins can't do. Love this little tool. And you know that I'll mention different tools as I go through these series, but there's particular tools I really, really love because they make my job very, very easy and make it a lot more professional. This one underneath is a little bit bigger, and all sorts of things happen to make them not align up. We can't be perfect, but push it back so that the seams butt up against each other, hold with that stiletto and come on down. And you just keep doing that all the way through, and you get a lot faster at it than what I'm doing here at the moment. Butt them in, oops, get them in there. And then I'll just cut off the thread. And now we'll have a look and see how I went. Check me out. So there we have perfect, perfect. They're matching up perfect because we pressed right, we pressed accurately, we had exactly the 1/4 inch seam that our ruler had allowed us. So we're just going to press that seam, then we'll finish this off. So they're just a little bit few tips. Then we're going to do the same thing once we get this made. We're going to cut our strip of fabric and we're going to join it on each side. Just push it over, seam down, press your seam, push that out, seam down the other side. You'll get your 4-inch measurement, put it through the 2-inch Sasher tool, which I'll do with this piece now. I'll just repress this one. This was my prototype. It's just a little bit off skew. We'll give it a nice little press. We'll fold. This is our stitching line. I'm going to fold into the center stitching line. Into the center stitching line. You can check your measurement to make sure that that's measuring your 2 inches. It's perfectly 2 inches. Press. Then we'll put it through the 2-inch Sasher tool. Up and back down. And we'll then use 2 of the double fork pins. So one side of the pin's going to hit the white and one's going to hit the blue on this side. The same on this side. And then we're just going to push with the iron and let that fold it over so that we get that lovely little 1/2 inch trim each side. So you just keep pushing down. And that's what the Sasher tool's for, is to give everything exactly the same size. Now once we've done that, we need to fill this with our batting. So as we said in the last few episodes, once you do your batting to put in your sashing, your batting has to be a little bit smaller than your finished sashing measurement. So we open this out. Nobody's ever going to see this side of it, so if it's not neat, it doesn't matter. So for a 2-inch sashing, just to revise that, a 2-inch sashing finished, your batting is cut 1 7/8. Fold over, press, and you then have everything ready to put onto your quilt, and you've got a really, really nice sashing. These could be any size. You can calculate your own measurements. Once you get used to what you're doing, you can calculate your sizes to suit the sashing that you're making. You just have to understand what our fold back needs to be able to put this on between our blocks. So we're going to show you some more exciting things in this episode. We're going to now do traditional flying geese. So I'll show you that, because being traditional, they come out like a traditional flying geese, but we have to approach them a little bit different in our measurement. So let me show you all about that. So we're going to now show you how to do the flying geese. As I said, they turn out like the flying geese. It's going to be a 4-inch sashing this time. But because we've had to allow for the turn back, normally when we do flying geese, we start out with a rectangle and 2 squares, and it comes out to the size you want. But because we've had to allow for the turn back to fold back over, so that we haven't got any raw edges, we have to approach the measurements a little bit different. That's why it's so important that you download the notes that I've written for you with all the measurements and all the graphics in. So you're going to cut a variety of your different colours that you've used, or you may want to make them all the one colour. That is entirely up to you, but these are fun to make. There's nothing hard about them, but it is getting these points accurate that's going to be the little tip. So later on in the episode, you're going to see all my little tips at the sewing machine, but I just want to explain the steps to you first, and then we'll show you some little tips at the sewing machine. So now what we're going to do, we're going to start with our white fabric, and we'll cut those to the measurement that we've got in the notes. We're now going to need to draw a line on here, but the line's not going to be halfway through the middle. We're going to use our little ruler, and we're going to draw a line 1 3/4 inches in from this edge. Okay, 1 3/4 inches. Refer to the graphics and your notes. And I'm going to draw this line quite dark so you can see it, but normally I just draw it light enough so that I could see it under the light of my sewing machine, but I want you to be able to see this. So we've got a line, and you can see where it's not centered in the middle. We then get our blue piece of fabric. We're going to sit this on here, and this line should be lining up with your blue fabric. And then we're going to want to stitch from point over to this line. Now, if you're a good sewer and you've got a good straight eye, you could just sew straight across there, but I'm hopeless at sewing a straight line. So I'm just going to line up my ruler from the edge of this drawn line to the edge of the white. And then I'm just going to draw that line across here. All right. Now, when a little tip, and you'll see this when I go to the sewing machine a little bit in a minute, I find if I draw on that line, I'm going to be a thread out. So I'm going to stitch on this side, not this side, on this side of the line. So when I get this under the foot of the machine, we're going to use the open toe foot. I'm going to stitch right close to this side of the line. Okay, just that thread away, so that then when I fold this back, it's going to fold back exactly back to this line that I can see through my fabric. This line here should be folding out. I'll just finger press this for you. So we'll be sewing right to the edge here, to the edge here, just like we have with this one. So I've already done the stitching. You can see the stitching there. There's my drawn line, there's my diagonal line, and it's really hard to see, but I can just see that I've just missed that pencil line. It's that one thread the other side of it. It's all a little bit about accuracy, but I think you'll be very proud of that once you get it done. Then I'm going to trim this off. Then I come back and I put this one on this side and repeat the process. Stitch that, we'll fold it back, and this is what it looks like. So you can see I've already trimmed this edge off. Before I put the second white piece on, I had to trim this edge off, as we will do now for you. This is where these little rulers are really handy. I put that on the stitching line, so the 1/4 inch line is right on the stitching line, and trim. Then we'll press that seam to set the seam like I've been showing you. Turn it out, press back to the light, then come and put the second piece on. Once you get the second piece on, fold it out once you've pressed that stitching line, trim back to your 1/4 inch, and there is your Flying Geese section ready to join together. Now, when we join these together, which I'll join these at the sewing machine in a moment, we're going to put them face down. Now, when we sew this, let's just get rid of this thread. When we sew across here, we need to be using the same 1/4 inch seam, because we have this little, what I call an X mark, where the two stitching lines have crossed over when we've done those triangles. So as we come through here, we should be stitching right through that X mark up to here. Now we're going to do the star points. So we've got the sashing strip cut, the width that your notes that are there for you to download. I've cut around these with the 2-inch purple templates. I've marked the diagonal lines. So I'm just going to line this up on the edge. Still using the open toe foot. I'm going to use the stiletto. The pointy end is my little, helps with my wonky fingers. Align everything up beautifully. Put this down. Come and stitch. Just hold that with the stiletto so that it holds everything in place for you till you get that finished. Then fold it back and check. If everything's right, remember you're going to fold this one back underneath. The white back you're going to trim off to 1/4 inch from here using that little ruler. Once you've got that trimmed off, you're going to then come back with the next piece, and once again you're going to stitch that across that diagonal line. Then you'll, once you've turned that back, let's just turn that back, we will imagine that that's stitched. Now what you've got is you've got that perfect 1/4 inch from here out, and that should measure the 1/4 inch of your ruler. If that's happening, you've got everything spot on perfect. So congratulations, I know you can do it. That's just how we do the diagonal stitching. Now we're going to make some of the triangles for the triangle sashings. Remember, we cut around that purple template. We're going to put these two pieces down so that they line up exactly. Line up. Put your pressure foot down and start sewing. Now, for some reason, if one little piece is just a fraction bigger than the other, use your stiletto, make sure they line up, I just find I can hold with this much, much better than what I ever can with pins. Just keep the eye on the side of the foot. So the side of the foot needs to be on the edge of the fabric. Don't watch the needle, watch the foot. Okay, you're going to then press that to the dark, and there you have your perfect diagonal for your triangle templates. Once we've done that and pressed that, we come back with the next piece. Oops, put them around the right way. Put them together. So you're going to make your row up. It'll tell you in the notes how many to make. Once again, when you start sewing, if one piece is a little bit bigger than the other for whatever reason, just make sure you hold with that stiletto. I just feel the one with the metal handle and with these two little edges on it, oops, I've just got that, is so nice to use. Strong, it's tough, and it's got both edges that I can use to my advantage. So you just keep making your pieces up like this to get as many as you need into the row that you're accommodating where the sashing's going to be. Then you're going to turn this back to the points and you'll have those perfect triangles. So that's how you make Quilt As You Go triangles. Really, really easy. Now the other one we need to do is this side-by-side triangles, this one here. So this is where you're cutting mirror image pieces. We're going to join them like I showed you how to join these units together, but you'll be doing two of the same colour. Then we then have 2 points to connect. We've got to connect these two here exactly so that we get that nice point to that triangle. Now this is where you may want to use the fork pin. You may want to, and we've got one seam going to the dark and one going to the light, so they're going opposite directions. Pin into that, so you've got that there. Or if you feel you don't want to pin it, use the stiletto. That over there even. Now as we get down here close to the pin, you can sew over these little fine fork pins, but you don't want to do that because you may hit it with the needle and bend your needle, and you don't want to put your needle off position or break the needle and put your timing in that out. So as I'm sewing down, I just grab hold of this and slide it out as I get close to there. Then if I have a discrepancy down the bottom here where the two pieces meet, use your stiletto to hold that in place. And you can see it holds it there beautifully for me right to the last stitch. Let's check out this point. There you go, spot on point, matching absolutely perfect. So using the fork pins and the stiletto together, you can see the results. Now once I've pressed this one here, I do recommend that we press this seam opened. So I'll make a lot of these units up, then I'll go to the iron and press them opened, because it's going to go through the Sasher tool much better with that seam pressed opened. It's going to have a lot of strength to it because we reduced our stitch length down. But to make the side-by-sides, you're just now going to join these up. But when we join these up, we've got this point to match here, exactly the same. Approach it the same way. Line up those points here, put your pin in and stitch down there until you get them all perfect, as many in the row as you need to join, to make that into your sashing to be positioned in your quilt. And once we do that, we'll press it. And then we have our Flying Geese. Now it looks really big, and I know you're using up a bit more fabric, but once we put this through the Sasher tool, we're putting this through the big 4-inch tool, the same way that I've been showing you. There's nothing hard about it, just take your time, because we want to fold right back to these points. And once you fold it back, you'll get that perfect result of all of those points matching, so long as you're accurate with your 1/4-inch seam. But if you're a little bit out and you're happy with that, nobody has the right to criticise you. We're not all perfectionists. I like my points to be meeting, but I think if I ran a fine-tooth comb over this, it's not perfect in every single one, but it's as close as I could possibly get it. Once you've done that, you're going to cut your batting 3 7/8. You're going to lay it inside, and this is what I love about this batting. You can peel it apart as many times as you want and put it back there and press it, and it will just sit there perfectly for you. So that's our Flying Geese. So let me come back to this one and get you started with the folding. So we're going to fold back to that stitching line. I can see my points. If I'll fold this over, you can see the points, they've come over too far. So you just want to fold back to that tip of that point and press. And then come this side, fold back so you can't see that, and your strips should be meeting in the middle, basically meeting there. That tells you that you're accurate. Then we're going to put it into the 4-inch tool. Now this one's not part of our set of tools, of the Sasher tools. We only go up to 3 inches in the set of 12, but you can obtain this one from your local quilt store or from us as an individual. Now we go back down through. Once we get it through there, pull it on through. I find if your fabric's a little bit stiff and a little bit uncontrollable or a little bit soft, it's not a bad idea to have a spray water bottle to be misting your fabric sometimes with a bit of mist of water. And we'll just pin and pin. Then just keep your eye on those points there. Put your iron against it. Now you will have to tap with the iron, because we've got a lot of seams, we've got a little bit of bulk there, and you can see how that's coming through, and you just keep moving down. If you find your fabric's moving too much, keep moving your pins up as you go. And let's have a look at the other side to see how we're matching those points perfect. Voila! It's really easy, and I love doing this sort of thing. It just adds such a dimension to your quilt. So that's how we can convert a traditional Flying Geese into a turn back sashing Flying Geese. Now the next one I'm going to show you, it's another exciting one which I love to do, but it's a little bit of lattice work. It's a different sort of sashing. It's going to finish up 4 inches wide as well. So we'll do a little bit of work on it now, but we'll be doing more work on it as we get closer to joining the quilt together. So let me show you all about that. So we'll put these aside, and we're going to show you a lattice sashing. Look at this, isn't it gorgeous? Love it. Okay, this is easy. Once again, we approach it totally different. I won't be finishing this at the moment. We'll be finishing that as we join the quilt together. But we're starting with, this is going to end up 4 inches, so I've cut it 5 inches by about 20, but don't forget, get the notes, it's all in there. I've cut I think I've cut about 5 strips 1 inch wide on the straight grain for the lattice. All your shapes for your appliques are in the notes, so you'll just trace them off. We're going to, in the notes I've given you positioning measurements, you know, how far to measure in from this end, and how far to measure between each one of these lattice. you're just going to make your half-inch strip. This is cut on the straight grain. You know how to do that. You're just going to fold the ends in and press. Put it through the half-inch tool. And hopefully by now you're seeing how valuable the Sasher tools are, and this is why I designed them, because I needed an aid to help me do all of this. And then all we're going to do is push with the iron and make our strips for the lattice. Once you get that done, I'll just remove this. And I do have another piece made here. So all we're doing is laying them down where they're needed. Let's pull this back here towards me. Lay these down. I've got them all laying on one direction, and I've started weaving them because that's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do now, I've started on the over there. I'm going to start under this one and over and under. So it's very simple. It's just a little bit fiddly over and under this last one. Now, once I get this done and I get the measurement right and get it nice and straight, I've glued all of these ones down with the Roxanne glue because I didn't want them to move, but this one's in the road, it's glued down, so I can pull that back quite nicely, put this one in position, get my little ruler and make sure I've got the positioning, which I think is about 3/4 of an inch is what I need it to be. So I just make sure that's my 3/4 of an inch. If I'm happy with that, I'll trim it off. Then I come and put a little bit of glue under this one and this one and this one. Then I'll go and do the next one. So it's all about the unders and overs. As you can see, I've got unders and overs happening. Then trace all your shapes onto your fabrics. It'll tell you how many of each to make. So if I'm going to make a flower up, I like to cut my pieces out, and this is where the rotating mat's fabulous because I cut out all my shapes with a little cutter, but you use scissors if you prefer scissors. But I like to construct my flower first before I come and put it onto here. So I just lay it out in an order that I'm happy with, and it's random. It's a bit rustic. It doesn't matter how you're the one it's your quilt. You just make it through the way, put whatever amount of petals you want in there. But if you're happy with that sort of positioning or you want to tweak it a bit, just come to your glue, turn it to the back, just put a little bit of glue on the bottom tail end of your petals. You might want to do this at the ironing board. I like doing these sort of things at the little mat because if I'm working and want to rotate it around to everything's positioning where I want it to be, I can rotate the mat. So just put these together, just so you build it up to a shape that you like. And you will get a bit of glue on your fingers, but it's water soluble, so don't worry. So there it is, constructed. So now if you're happy with that, you can twig it a bit. I'm just going to move some of the petals because the glue's not yet dry. That's how we do it. Then cut out your circles. Where have I put the circles? You can glue a circle on there once you get that right. But before we put this on, I would glue the circle onto here so that I'm putting the whole thing in. But I might just want to go ahead and position them where I think they'd like to be first. If I'm happy with that, we cut out a lot of the leaves. Now these leaves are in the little tulip bud. They come from the little tulip bud in your template set F that you would have used those in the quilting part. If not, we've drawn the pattern on the notes for you. So once you think your flowers look okay, remove them, cut a piece of fabric 1/2 inch on the bias and put that through the 1/4 inch Sasher tool. And then we're going to put this in and over this lattice. So just wind it in. You can go in and under, over, under. So once you've got all your pieces on there, just intertwined it in through over this side. Might go under here and over here. Put a little bit of structure to it so that it's got some nice curves in it. My piece that I've cut is not long enough. So if I had to add another piece here now, I would make sure that this piece here, where it ends, is going to end up in under. So when I cut that bit off, then I join the other bit on here and go over and curve that out to the edge. And that's what I've done here. I didn't have a piece long enough, so under here is a join, under this piece is a join. Then I just went and positioned my flowers. This is a different colourway. Position them where you want them, and then just come back with your leaves and position your leaves wherever you want. Some of them might like to go under, some over. That is entirely up to you how you want to get your design looking. But isn't it cute? So that's as far as we're going to go with it now. But when we put it into the quilt, we'll be doing some other work on this to really enhance it and make it look really, really special in your quilt. So enjoy the rest of the sewing and enjoy the next episode where we show you more different sashings. But it's getting close to putting the quilt together. So see you next time. Bye for now.